Hi, my name's Chris Springer. I'm with the PPG Refinish Marketing Group, and I act as an application specialist. Part of my role is to develop processes for repairing OE vehicles in the collision centers. For years, we've been teaching you to paint colors to full hiding or to opacity. And in the OEM, they have driven a change in the way that colors are sold to customers, as well as the way vehicles are repaired in the shop. As much as 20% of today's colors are translucent colors coming from the OEM. And what I mean by translucent is the pigments that they are using have a level of transparency to them. The more chromatic, the more vivid, the more vibrant the color is, the more likely it is to have a level of transparency. So the undertone or the primer color that the OEM is using becomes part of the final color on that vehicle. What I'm going to do is demonstrate the process of repairing one of these highly chromatic colors from the OEM and do it in as little as 3 coats plus a control coat. What you will see is that the color matches and that the repair is 100% invisible. The transition from where the repair was done to the existing OEM finish is impossible to pick up. So what I have here is the repair that we're doing today on, it's a Toyota 3R3 Barcelona Red, which I've identified as a very translucent color. What I have is 2 primer spots. They have been primed in the proper G shade for the color. The key to that color is eliminating this harsh or hard edge of a primer surfacer. So with this repair being good solid surfacer, there's no burn throughs down to body filler, there's no bare metal exposed. The option that I'm going to use here is using our waterborne base coat formulated to the correct gray shade to make that transition from primer to OEM color. Let's go in the mix room and I'll show you how to look up those colors. Every color in the PPG database has a complementary grayscale that goes underneath it. Our color science team made the spectral grays available in our primer surfacers and primer sealers in the colors of G1, G5, and G7, which can be intermixed back and forth to create all 5 of the spectral grays. As a painter, to help you choose the right color, one of the tools available to you is PPG's Variant Deck system. This is an example of a Variant Deck system that has been organized in a chromatic way by color. We also have this available by motor manufacturer. What this does is this provides you with a paint chip that has been sprayed with PPG's premium waterborne base coats over the proper grayscale to give you an accurate representation that when you go into our paint manager system and mix a color, that this is the color you are going to get when you spray it. So for our repair in the paint booth, we're using the base coat version of our G scale. But to find out which G shade to mix up, we'll go to the OEM formula. So we'll press search, standard, we'll put in our OEM formula, which in the booth is Toyota 3R3. So I put 3R3 in where the OEM brand code is. Hit search, I find Toyota, I can grab Prime, which is the Variant Deck chip that matched our vehicle. Hit continue, and here is your formula page. And in your formula page, you have a lot of information. Not only does this give you your color box number and show you where, right here in MZ371, that's this Variant Deck binder. It also tells you right here under your instructions that use undercoat G5. So we're going to go back to our main menu, to the main screen, and press again search, standard, and here instead of putting the OEM code in, we're going to put in G5. Now there's a little trick you need to do. Go up here to mixing scheme and change that to all mixing schemes. Make sure nothing else is selected and hit search. And this time when you search, you're going to notice on screen that a Graymatic G5 has come up. You can choose that formula, come forward, hit continue, and what this does is this brings up a waterborne base coat version of that G5 formula. So we can go ahead and place our container on the scale, mix this formula, and that's going to give us the appropriate G shade for Toyota 3R3. For demonstration purposes, with this translucent color. I'm gonna show you what a typical repair would be in a shop where you wouldn't use a sealer or a ground coat to cover the hard edge of your primer. This soft edge is the key to a translucent color success. Also, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to place a hiding sticker on the edge of the panel here. You'll notice that the hiding sticker will not disappear even though the repair is invisible. Where we're at is we've completed 2 coats of the application of our waterborne base coat. And you can start to see on the side that has the nice tapered soft edge of ground coat into the OEM is starting to get perceived hiding. Where the side here that has just the bare primer surfacer with no sealer or no ground coat applied is blatantly sticking out, where both have the same amount of paint on them, but the side that has the ground coat is perceived to be so much further ahead. We're gonna wrap this up and put one more coat of color on, go and do our control coat, and we'll come back and revisit the panel. Okay, so now we've completed putting on 3 coats of our waterborne base coat and a final control coat. And what you can see here is the area that had the G5 ground coat is 100% perceived hiding. The other side that had just the surfacer is still sticking out, pretty obvious. Why I want to emphasize perceived hiding is, remember, for a demonstration we put on a hiding sticker here, and this hiding sticker is showing us that we do not have coverage. Coverage is not important. Color match and an easy invisible blend is important, and that's what we've demonstrated here. So it's that simple to repair a translucent color. Let's recap what we did on this repair. We identified the OEM color as Toyota 3R3. We went to the Paint Manager system and found that 3R3 calls for a spectral gray rating of G5. Because the repair had no burn-throughs down to body filler to bare metal, to make that soft transition edge, we opted to go with our waterborne base coat in G5. Came in, sprayed 1 coat of that, giving a nice soft transition from primer to our OEM color. Came back in, put 3 coats of color on to get color and perceived hiding. We put 1 control coat on to ensure color match. We came in and put 2 coats of clear coat on. This repair job is out the door. For a normal collision repair center, this is not going to be any extra steps or anything out of the ordinary of what you're used to doing on that other 80% of opaque colors. Rather than going and spraying the ground coat, when you're doing your repair work or doing your priming in the shop where there's body filler or where damage has been done to the vehicle, you would mix your primer surfacer in the recommended G shade. And with that, I hope that brings some clarity on transparency.